Oh, it looks like they ended the stream over there. So hopefully folks knew over there to come here. AKMS/join PS call. Actually, don't need this guy. That guy. Awesome. So I think we can get right into it, and I am picking up somebody's keyboard. If everybody can just make sure they're muted if they're not talking. So welcome, October 15th, 2020. Hopefully folks are checking out the PWS H24 conference hosted by DevOps.org. So this is going on, has been going on for a little while through our night and is going to continue for an entire 24 hours. So that's twitch.tv/DevOps.org is the, that's really just for those of you watching now for the PWSH 24-hour conference. Going to be some awesome content there. Sydney's going to be there later today talking about secret management. Definitely going to want to check that out. But we're going to be doing our regularly scheduled community call here. We're going to hop right into it with Sydney giving us a Powershell Gallery status update and mini post-mortem on some of the challenges we've been facing there.
Yeah, sure. So as some of you may have noticed, last week we did have a partial outage in the Powershell Gallery. And so basically what happened there is that the gallery was experiencing extremely low availability. And so how this surfaced to customers was both an inability to install modules in often cases, and in some cases also not being able to access the website at all. And so unfortunately that incident did surface what ended up being sort of the middle of the night in our time. So shout out to Amber and Aditya for jumping right on that and working through the night to resolve that and get the gallery back into a state where folks could continue to install modules and access the website. So in total, I think that the outage lasted around 16 hours or so. And we were able to mitigate that issue from there. If you are wondering why you haven't seen a post-mortem on this yet, or why the statistics are still not updated, it's because we are still working through the full extent of what exactly is causing this extremely low availability. What we know today is that the gallery is seeing a huge number of incoming requests, and that we likely do need to make some adjustments to the underlying architecture and the way we handle those requests in order to meet the changing scale needs of the gallery. When the gallery was first created back in 2016, it was used at a very different scale than it is today. So we're working with partners to better understand exactly where that scale is coming from, so we can make adjustments to ensure to mitigate any of these sort of low availability challenges in the future. Our absolute first priority right now is getting the statistics back into an accurate state. I know for anyone who owns a module out there that this is a high priority, and that includes our team in many cases. So that is our #1 priority, and then from there we're going to work to make sure we can mitigate these challenges going forward. So look forward to hopefully getting the statistics back up to date in the coming weeks, and then you'll definitely see some sort of blog post post-mortem once we have fully tackled this issue.
Sorry. Thank you, Sydney. Appreciate the update. 7.1. So we've got an RC1 out, RC2 coming down the pipeline. Steve, do you want to give an update there in the master branch status?
Yep. So we do expect RC2 to come out this month. We're a little bit behind .NET 5. We're hoping to get back on track so that we can sim ship with them on the GA, assuming that we don't find any other new issues because of RC2. But the main thing here to understand is that master branch at this point in time is really 7.2. That means that maintainers can continue to merge that as long as they have availability, and that'll be part of the 7.2 preview 1, which I'm hoping will be shortly after we have 7.1 GA, so they won't have a big gap between the stable branch and the preview branches, or the channel, sorry. That way people who are on the preview channel won't wait a long time for an update. So there were, I'm going to actually address some of Ilya's specific questions that he had posted on the RC issue because they're pertaining to this topic. One of the things he's asking about is in previous releases, we deferred a lot of style and like big code churn changes to the beginning of a new release because we don't want to have it in the middle. That causes a lot of merge conflicts and whatnot. So yeah, I agree. Like we should probably take those now in the master branch, kind of mostly almost all at once or within a certain range so that we can get all those done. That way we can then focus on actual code changes going forward after that and not taking those until the next start of which will be 7.3. Let me see. And then .NET team added many more analyzers, and I think that's for me it's the same kind of thing. Like we should do that early now.
Sorry, could you just reframe the question here because I'm not looking at what you're looking at.
No, sure. So the question is really about there's a whole bunch of PRs right now that are open for code cleanup. Is that the one you're talking about? Let me see. So yeah, so we should take that now and get those reviewed and merged into the master branch, which is going to be for 7.2. The next thing is really .NET 5 had added a bunch of new analyzers that we should leverage. So we should also take those now because those are probably going to raise issues, and we should get our code cleaned up early before we start making a lot of functional code changes.
Yeah, that one I understood. I just you were going right into another one here.
No, those are all. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yep. Great.
Outside of that, let me see anything else for 7.1. Yeah, so for the remainder of 7.1, we're just going to be cherry picking changes that have been reviewed and approved by the team. Otherwise, continue to test out 7.1 RC. Those are go live production support releases. So if you put in production, hit an issue, we will service that along with .NET 5. Otherwise, we're heading towards hopefully general availability 7.10 in November.
Awesome. Can't wait. Yeah, and along those lines, 7.2, not just the code cleanup stuff's going to come early, but we also hope to check in a lot of the sort of early experimental features, stuff that, we think maybe has breaking change that we're not sure we're comfortable taking yet. A lot of the early feature work, we're really trying to get in a cadence where the first half of the release lifecycle is more around the feature work, and then the second half is more around stabilizing that work and validating whether or not it's okay to take into GA. So, we're going to do our best to do that. Yeah. Great. You want to talk about the team game day?
Sure. So I want to try something new here. So for those who don't know or haven't heard, like Among Us is a pretty popular game right now. We did play it with the team one time, and I think people had fun. So this Friday, which would be tomorrow, right? We're going to have this will be 1 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to host a game. We'll get a bunch of Powershell team members on there. The game only takes up to 10 folks. As far as I know, that hasn't changed. But basically at around 1 p.m. or so, after we've not fill up the whole thing, but get enough team members in there, I'm going to post the code if you want to join the game on follow my Twitter. And whoever joins, whoever doesn't, maybe you get to play next time. And we'll see how that goes. And if it turns out that people have fun, then we'll do something similar. There's some other games we can also play that actually allows for more than 10 people, so we might try that in the future. But I don't know if this will be like a regular thing, but it's something we'll see if it works out with the Powershell community. Great way to interact between the Powershell team and the community, although there won't be probably a chat. I haven't decided whether or not I want to have a Teams meeting for the chat, or we'll just stick with the text chat in the game.
Throw folks in Discord or something. Is this? Can you verify your Twitter account here, Steve? Is this...
I think it's just Steve L. Let me double check. What is it? Hold on. Blah blah blah. Oh, it's just Steve _MSFT.
Steve _MSFT. Really? Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's because smart people wouldn't have put their company with their Twitter name. It's all right. I only use that. I have other ones, but I only use that one for the Microsoft stuff.
Cool. I will actually add one in here. I'm going to do a quick little insertion here of the working group stuff. So I did publish a working groups blog to the Powershell blogs. Definitely check that one out. This is basically a shift towards, I would say, decentralization of issue triage, PR reviews, feature code reviews, etc., or even feature RFC reviews. The idea here is really that we're doing sort of more of initial validation on whether or not a feature should be done up front via issues, and that people who are really experts in any given area around that issue should be the ones making the decision on whether or not that requires an RFC or not, or whether it should even be considered for acceptance at all. And really a lot of this is around the fact that we've got a high volume of PRs, and we find that often people do a lot of work around PRs or RFCs for stuff that ultimately finds itself in front of the committee, who we are chronically low on time in terms of how much stuff we need to review and our other daily responsibilities. And so we're really trying to prevent people from doing all this work that we may end up rejecting in the end, as we strive to maintain the stability of PowerShell. So the big thing that I think is interesting for folks here is that we want to reach out to some of the high-profile community contributors, folks that have been really engaged on the project thus far, and we'll continue to reach out to folks like that as they sort of mature, in terms of their engagement with the project, as people who should, ultimately really do belong on these working groups and are in some of the best positions to make those decisions. So, if you are one of those people, you will probably be getting some kind of email or message from us at some point. And if you'd like to be one of those people, then please, by all means, engage with the PowerShell project in good faith, and contribute some of your expertise that you have, because we are going to need more and more people to populate those working groups, and really seed some of the decision-making power back to the community here, as we have trended towards doing over the last few years of being open source. So really looking forward to that. Awesome. Steve, I presume this is your Keychain Vault extension demo?
Yes. Let me share my screen, see if this works. All right.
So just to give a little context, we had a hackathon, a bug bash for secret management. And so this is basically where we all run through, some common scenarios with secret management, and file a bunch of issues around stuff that may still be a problem. This is very successful for us, but also we took some extra time. Some folks like Steve took some extra time to write some extension modules as well that could be useful for other folks in the community. And these aren't necessarily supported extension modules, but sort of in a hackathon vein, throwing those up. So I think, Steve, you did one for macOS Keychain, and we're going to be showing that. Oh, you already took over. Perfect.
Yeah. So to clarify, these are not supported by the team, but they are supported by individuals. So these are side projects. In this case, the Keychain repo is my own repo, and if people use it and find issues, I will do my best to support it. And one of the things that there are two themes that we want to kind of cover in the bug bash. One is really the end user perspective, using the commandlets in different environments, testing it out in Azure Automation, Azure Functions, Azure Pipeline, stuff like that. And the other one is really the developer experience for writing an extension. And that's what I wanted to focus on, because that's something I had not done before. And my primary development machine is a MacBook Pro, so it made sense for me to kind of look at Keychain. So I guess I'll just give a quick demo, and then I'll explain some of the stuff here. Whoops, type it right. All right. I guess for now, I'll just show that you can see I'm using the secret store, which is something that we are supporting as a team, and that is cross-platform, so you can use it everywhere that we support PowerShell. But in this demo, I also have my Keychain Vault. So these are secrets that are stored directly into the Mac OS Keychain feature. So if I do get secret test, then in this case, this was a hash table, and you kind of see the strings being returned are secure strings. But the idea here is if I had a set of parameters I want to now splat into let's say an Azure PowerShell commandlet that contains sensitive information, then I can just store it, I can retrieve it back, and I just splat it directly into that commandlet or in that pipeline or that script. I also happen to have my PowerShell Gallery API key here, so that's what I've been testing with. And you could argue that maybe I could have stored this as a secure string instead of just a string, but it is encrypted on my MacBook anyways. But I think what I really want, actually, let me show a few more things here before I, so this module should have been loaded now. Git command module. So similar to Secret Store, I have a couple of commandlets specific to this Vault extension. So you can get like the keychain configuration, which right now you can just set the password timeout. For testing, I have it set to 0, meaning it never times out. But if you're using it as an automation, like in pipelines on a Mac, then you can also unlock the keychain by providing the password. So there is a password parameter you can pass, and that will unlock it if there's a timeout. But what I also wanted to show was really how simple this was. So we can take a look at it. This is all written in PowerShell script, and I will make it bigger in a second. Ignore my notes. That should be it. Whoops, dang it. There we go. All right. Get rid of this. So there's two modules here. So I'm going to go over the. I'm not going to go over all the code, but I'll just show. So these are all the commandlets that are specific to this keychain module extension. So this is the stuff that you saw, like get the configuration. And all they're really doing is calling the security command, which is user bin security. This comes with Mac OS, and this is a command line tool that lets you interact with keychains. So this saved me from having to do a bunch of like pinvokes kind of thing to call native APIs. But the main complication here is this command is actually quite complicated. So, I mean, it has like a lot of options, a lot of different commands. Each one has its own parameters. And of course, one complication is it outputs text. It doesn't output objects. So there is code in here, somewhere in here later on. There we go. Convert keychain secret. So when you query a keychain, you're going to get something that looks like this. There's nothing sensitive in here. And basically, I'm using some regular expressions to just parse out the parts that I care about. And then I create an object and return that back to the secret management module. So a lot of this code in here is really just about converting the text I get from the command line, and also I need to handle the different types that secret management supports. So I have to handle these differently. So I do a whole bunch of conversions from like secure string byte arrays. Ultimately, everything that the keychain command line accepts is a string. So I basically get all these types, I handle it. I have like functions up here to convert it, like an entire hash table that contains objects into strings. And then ultimately I have to base64 encode everything. That way, when I pass it to command line, I don't have to worry about escaping quotes and other characters like that. And that is pretty much it. I don't think there's, no, I still have like, I hope I didn't publish it. This was a debug output. Let me just say that. But that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah. So that kind of just shows you if you have a command line tool talking to some other vault, like it could be OnePass, or I'm not sure about GNOME Keyring, whether they have a command line tool, but it's not that hard to wrap it. And you can, if you want, you can use the code I wrote in PowerShell script as a way to kind of start that process. So there you go.
Yes, this is really awesome because we think that there's going to be a lot more of these popping up. They're fairly easy to write. Again, you're just wrapping a command line tool, so it's gives you sort of that ability to, again, write these scripts in a very cross-platform, vault agnostic way by depending on the secret management module, and letting users swap out whichever vault extension they want. So really exciting stuff. Moving along, I think we have a PS Readline update and demo. I don't know if this is Dogbo or Jason.
I think this is Jason.
It's me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll do that. I think everybody can probably see my screen. I think I got it shared. Just as an update to a feature that we're working on for 7.1 and for 7.2, the predictive IntelliSense. Now, if you've seen other shells like Fish or Z Shell. You've probably seen this. I'm going to do a quick demo of it, but here's what I wanted to let everybody know is that we recently published an RFC, and we definitely would like your feedback. Now, the feature that I'm going to show you is, well, you know how tab completion has saved a lot of typing and spelling mistakes? This is an enhancement to that. It'll further accelerate, or at least what I've been finding is it further accelerates my time to being successful and a lot of the mistypes that I usually make. But that's just one part of this. As we move forward, we're also looking to see if we can improve more kind of the experience for newer users and helping them put their complicated commands together. And so we do have an RFC up that goes through and explains this feature. It explains how to enable it, how to modify it, configure it, get it set up for your for the way that you like things. It also describes our release plan that we have. And one of the things that I wanted to point out to you today was, and I will put a link to this RFC in the chat as soon as I'm done speaking. First of all, in order to get this feature, we just recently released an RC of PS readline. So if you take a look, allow pre-release. And as you can see, I'm having a great time trying to type right now. And for some reason, my shell is not responding. Oh, perfect time for you not to allow pre. Okay, you kind of get the idea. I can't, come on. Not sure what's happening here. There we go. Anyways, you can go out and find this the RC1 that we just recently released of PS readline. Now, when you download this and you start typing, nothing's really going to change. And that's by design. And you guys know, if you type the tab key, it'll start, doing tab completion. But if you would like to enable the predictive IntelliSense, this is a PS readline option that you can either put in the shell or you can put into your profile. So set PS readline, and I'm going to do the option here of, and I'm going to set what's called a prediction source. Again, this is in the RFC, and I'm going to have him do history and plugin. By default, it's set to none. And when you get RC1, you'll be able to set it to history. But I wanted to show you something else that we're working on as we move into the time frame for PowerShell 7.2 as well. Now, once you have it enabled and you start typing, you'll start seeing some predictions in light gray on your screen. And you can accept these predictions and immediately execute them. Now, these predictions are coming from your PS readline history. So it's across all of your sessions that you have this history in that you can choose from. Now, I know you might be saying, well, gee whiz, I really can't see your screen. It's because it's in a light gray color. And I honestly prefer this when I'm working, but when I'm demonstrating this, it is hard to see. So I'm going to change the color. And here's one of the things. You can set the color to whatever color works best for you when you're using predictions. So I'm going to set PS readline. Helps if I would have typed in a little bit more. There we go. Option. And I'm going to set the color. In my case, that's not the prediction of the color that I wanted. What's the color that I want? Actually, I am just going to save some time here while I'm bouncing around and just put it in. This will make it easier for you to see, so you can adjust the color. So now you'll see that I've got predictions appearing in a different color. Now you'll notice that where we kind of, what I refer to these as whole line completions or predictions that you're seeing across your screen. This is what we're providing you for 7.1, and we'd really like your feedback on how these historical predictions work. But one other thing that I wanted to show you, and you'll notice this in the RFC, as we move forward, and probably next month, we'll have a 2.2 beta of PS readline, where this is our ongoing previews for our ongoing preview train of 7.2. You'll be able to have an additional view and some additional features. And very quickly, I just wanted to show you right now the whole line completion you can see going across my screen, but we're going to let you hit a key, which currently is bound to F2, to let you switch the view into something from inline view to something we call list view. And list view shows you your history and lets you go down and highlight it and choose the thing that you want. So as you're typing, you can see that it starts to change. So if I do dash pat, well, helps if I had child item. And as I continue to type, I can start to decide what prediction starts to appear, select that prediction, strike enter, and move forward. The interesting thing about this is I want you to notice something else. I'm going to start to type in a command to create an Azure VM. So new dash VM, whoops. Oops, and for some strange reason, my console froze up on me. And what you're starting to see here is I do new dash, and I'll just do, take what I've got here. Come on. You can see that I've got multiple predictions being listed. I've got predictions, if you look to the right, that come from my history, but also we're going to support external third-party or first-party plugins that can provide additional predictions. And in this case, you're seeing one that we're working on with the Azure PowerShell team, and that's a predictor that will soon also be available for public preview in November as well, that will help predict the parameters and arguments for your commandlets to try to make it a little bit easier when you aren't sure what parameters to use to start to predict ways to help you be successful immediately at the command line. Of course, we'll be looking forward to moving predictions and suggestions into VS Code in the future during the 7.2 timeframe, but that's very early work right now that we're starting to think about. Please go out when you get a chance, take a look at the RFC and provide us some feedback on predictions, and we really look forward as we start to be able to do more previews and get this released out to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Really excited about this. This is yeah, this is going to be awesome. Definitely accelerate for me. I prefer to never type, and I end up typing a lot of the same stuff over and over again. So I'm gonna hop back over here to the notes. So we also have, as many know, Hacktoberfest is this month, and while we are already halfway through the month, there's still plenty of time to get involved. I don't know if, Steve, you've been driving the Hacktoberfest efforts, or maybe Tyler, I know you're very passionate about this.
Let me just mention a few things, because this is also brought up by the community. So there has been some, there has been an adjustment to how Hacktoberfest is being handled on GitHub. So I guess there's been some spam PRs happening, and also some tooling changes. So one of the things that we've done to kind of comply, and this was brought up by a community member, I can't remember who it was. I'm sorry, I can't give you credit. But basically, we needed to add a topic, so it's more than just having the label. So we've added the Hacktoberfest topic to several of our repos, including our doc repo, PowerShell repo, and a lot of the tooling repos. So if you go to the main Hacktoberfest page, you should see our repo show up, and then we have labeled some issues as being appropriate for Hacktoberfest. And then as we review those PRs, we'll make sure that we also apply the Hacktoberfest approved label so you can get your reward if you participate in that event.
And that's all searchable through the Hacktoberfest website, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Do you have that handy by any chance?
I do not.
Yeah, I think the PRs that count are ones that are approved, ones that are merged in, and then or ones that have a special label attached to them.
Yeah, there's a new Hacktoberfest approved label that the maintainers have to apply.
Yeah. And that's really only if a PR isn't approved or merged in October.
Awesome. Before I hop over to Q&A, were there any agenda items that came in maybe at the last minute? Anything?
Yeah, I think Tyler can give an update or demo of some updates that we've had for the console tool. Console, what do we call it? Console GUI tool? I can't remember what the module.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Tyler, you want to take over?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Good. Share. Okay. Nice. All right. So console GUI tools.
Ooh, can you give us a couple zooms?
Yeah. We'll get there. All right.
Sorry.
So I wasn't quite prepared for this demo, but only take a quick second. So for those of you who are familiar with our console GUI tools module, you can find it over at PowerShell/graphical tools. It is this, and actually I probably should update this GIF at this point, but let me just show you right here in Cloud Shell. So all I did was I installed the console GUI tools module, which was install module Microsoft .powershell.console GUI tools. And what this exposes today is a command called out console grid view. And the idea here is in scenarios like Azure Cloud Shell, for example, you want to have that like out grid view like experience, but you can't because there's no GUI in this case. Or you just want a quick way to like look at an out grid view style experience. So I'm going to go ahead and pipe get process to out console grid view, and you'll see what it looks like now. There's a member of the community, I don't know his name, but his GitHub username, I believe, is just TIG.
No, it's Charlie Kindle.
On the project that that console GUI tools depends on, called GUI.cs, and also a bunch of work in console GUI tools itself, and has really refined the experience to make it a lot faster to work with, and also so this is what it looks like now. What we see here is we've got this nice filter bar at the top. There's no menu or anything like that. If I search for, PWSH, whatever, that shows up in the list. I can go ahead and hit tab, which brings me down to the bottom, hit space to check these off, and then I hit enter, and that's gonna write those to the pipeline, and that's it. I didn't have to like do some fancy key bindings, just select the ones that I want, and I'm ready to go. In addition to that, clicking also works, so I could go ahead and click right on my terminal here, hit enter, and that works as well. Another thing that I really like is behavior of out console grid view is being able to choose things and put them into the pipeline. Before, you had to add a dash pass through as well. One of the things that I like about this is you've got this multi-select here, right, with the X's and the brackets. But if I do out console grid view output mode single, if I just want to take a single item, now I've got the parens here, and I can click on them, and it's that circle, and it's only going to let me choose one item on that list, which is a nice experience for exactly that kind of scenario. And of course, if I hit escape, then all of it will be aborted and nothing will get written to the pipeline. So that is the update on out console grid view. And there's more to come as well. I think what's his name? Charlie has like 3 more PRs into the graphical tools repo, or sorry, into the console GUI tools code base that will make this look even nicer. I think he's using some like nicer glyphs instead of just like circles and things like that, or O's and whatever. So it's just going to get nicer as time goes on. Give this a try. It's really easy to get. It works on, I believe it works on PowerShell 7 and up, although I guess technically PowerShell Core and up. But yeah, it's coming along really nicely. Give us your feedback as well, and you know where the repo is now as well. So.
Let me just emphasize one more thing. Like I think Charlie's been doing some amazing work, and I hope he keeps it up because he's really moving this project along. But also, although Tyler showed it in Cloud Shell, this also works in VS Code. It works on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So that's the benefit of doing this versus a classic WPF-based outgrid view, is that this will work almost everywhere as long as you have a console.
So that's yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, that is fantastic, especially for those environments where you have no GUI whatsoever, right? Like Cloud Shell. So it's fantastic. Cool. So I want to hop back over to the question and answers here. We've been getting a couple of these posted. So we got the Hacktoberfest that's been addressed. Is there a PS script analyzer for binary modules? Sydney, do you want to take this one?
I will actually defer to, I think Rob wrote up a really nice response to that comment with a few of the follow-up questions just below. So feel free to.
Awesome, Rob, throw it up. Or, I mean, give us your, you don't have to share anything.
No, it's currently in the GitHub, issue that we use for discussion. It's currently the bottommost comment there.
Awesome. I just meant, do you want to speak to it at all or reframe it here, or
sure.
We just defer. Is that a really good response here?
No, just that, today there's nothing. We've discussed, maybe we should leverage Roslyn analyzers for this, but there are a couple of preliminary questions around where we would jump off for a binary module analyzer. Is not quite the same thing as sort of what we have today in PS script analyzer. I mean, one of the keys in my mind is that script analyzer says script analyzer, and we'd need to analyze, I don't know, DLLs or C# source code. And yeah, I'd love to know more about it. We haven't really, implemented anything around that. And beyond the issue that you linked, Thomas Nieto, there's no. I haven't heard much in terms of demand for it, which is kind of a shame because I'd be very interested in seeing what we could do with that and just generally making the module development experience better with tooling like that.
Yeah, I've always wondered if maybe it just makes sense to have FX cop kind of rules that we go and implement for those that are already in a C# environment. If you wouldn't mind linking in the chat or just hitting me with the one where you actually responded, because it doesn't look like that one 447 has the response that Sydney was referencing.
If you actually just scroll down, Joey, in the RFC issue.
Yeah, 263.
Oh, excuse me. Got it. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much.
I'll copy it into the issue as well so we don't lose anything.
That'd probably be good. Yeah. So what is the plan? Oh, go ahead.
As a binary module author, I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, these things usually come down more to time than it does desire. I think we would all love to have that sort of thing, but it's would be an undertaking for sure. Okay, so what is the plan for the module system to support semantic version? There are quite a few issues with PowerShell Get V3 directly related with module system not understanding semver. Solution should be implemented by the time PowerShell Get V3 goes GA. So of course, well, I know, Sydney, that you've got. I'm going to let you come in here in a couple seconds around the PowerShell Get V3 specifically, but I just want to point out kind of some of the big problems here is that we really do want this to work down level where at all possible, and that's really where we're kind of tied up. And I hit this personally, with semver being put into the module version folder, and that not getting properly parsed by PowerShell with pre-release modules. But I do think this is something that we want to at least come up with an answer for. But to Sydney, do you have any insights there? Is there anything that you definitely want to make sure gets done with semantic versioning, or we are pretty early in the 7.2 lifecycle?
Definitely, yeah. So I definitely understand the frustration around versioning and some of the challenges that creates, especially as we've talked about with pre-release modules. I don't have a super satisfying answer directly for how we can solve this in PowerShell Get V3 right now, but I think it's fair for you to keep pushing us on this issue because I do think that if we can resolve it, it will create definitely some significant experience benefits. While we're on the topic of PowerShell Get V3, I know a couple questions down, Ryan asked for an update on it, the progress of the project overall, so I can give my monthly little segment on the Powershell Get V3 Progress. So about a month ago, we did ship preview 10 of PowerShell Get. So PowerShell Get 3.0. So do check that out. Since then, we have really focused our engineering efforts on some of the issues I talked about at the beginning of this call on the gallery. So our focus has been on the gallery over the past few weeks. So if you haven't seen as much activity on the PowerShell Get V3 project, it's not because we've forgotten about it, but just because we really want to address these high priority gallery issues first. Some things to look forward to in PowerShell Get 3.0 would be we do plan to ship PowerShell Get 3.0 previews beginning in PowerShell 7.2 Preview 1 alongside the compatibility module, which we've created. In addition, if you're looking for just general what's coming next in upcoming previews of PowerShell Get 3.0, we do plan to have a minimum of 3 more previews before we hit a GA state. And right now we have those designed as projects on our GitHub site and are pretty actively adding issues as they come into those projects. So check out the projects for preview 11 and preview 12 to see what is coming next. You can also use the milestone for the 3.0 release to see the full list of bugs or issues that we plan to address in that time frame. As always, if you don't see an issue being addressed there, please do open an issue. We are actively addressing those and triaging them and making adjustments to our plan for the 3.0 GA.
So that's the 3.0 consider milestone here?
3.0 resolved.
3.0 resolved, okay.
Yep.
So these are, by resolved, does that mean that they are checked in or just that we're committed to
that
fixing
we're committed to resolving them in the 3.0 timeframe? What we're using the 3.0 consider milestone for is issues that we will hope to solve in the 3.0 timeframe, but would not be blocking on a 3.0 release.
Okay. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, working our way through the questions here. So Steve, you addressed these from Elia already. Jason gave the update. That update was given. PowerShell working groups is just going to be PowerShell repo or wider across the number of PowerShell repos already there. How soon do you intend to try to get these in place for 7.2 GA, 7.2.1 beyond? So realistically, I want us to be operationalizing working groups hopefully before the end of this calendar year. Some of this is blocked on me today, and I need to go in and update a bunch of the issues, or the issue labels to correspond to the working groups. We also have some internal docs that we're using to kind of define who's on which teams and what exactly the teams are, and really the very, very detail-oriented process related to the sort of working group approval. Excuse me. Oh God, that's not good. Okay. Fun. Thank you. Focus mode that doesn't seem to be working. You'll see the labels change over time. Those docs will get posted. It is a pretty complex kind of flow chart in terms of how these decisions get made. But we're hoping that does allow us to have a little more process and a predictability around what you should be doing to file an issue, get approval to move on to writing an RFC, writing an experimental feature for code PR, and what that means, all those sorts of questions. So, but in terms of reaching out to folks, I don't have a hard estimation there. It's going to be dependent on us getting all this other stuff up. But folks may start to see some emails just asking, hey, preliminarily, are you interested in doing this, that sort of thing. One of the things that I maybe didn't mention in the blog is that being on a working group will require a time commitment. And we will be assessing over time those folks that are able to commit that time versus the folks that maybe are not quite as engaged. And we do want to make sure that this is not a sort of ceremonial title, but something that folks do take seriously and contribute at least an hour or two a week doing triage and engaging in issues and that sort of thing. So, but but I know this is something that's been a long time coming, and I really do want to get it operational and start scaling our project. So in terms of the original question about whether this is just the PowerShell repo or wider across the number of PowerShell repos, we have had some internal discussion about whether this model should be scaled out to other repositories. Today, personally, I'm including basically everything that ships in the PowerShell package itself, which is what the committee's really been scoped to for the entirety of its life cycle. So these are places where breaking change commitments are very, very strong, and we're committed very, very highly to backwards compatibility. But I think that there are enough other modules in the in our ownership that could benefit from this sort of model as well, and where we may want to start locking stability down a little more and more as time goes on. So I'll say today it's basically PowerShell, and this a couple other repos that feed into it, but in the future it could be more. Steve, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, I guess the only thing I'll just add is, the direction that we've already said publicly is that we want to pull more of the modules that we ship with PowerShell to their own individual repos, so that in the future, utility management, potentially security, would be their own modules that get updated on a different cadence from the engine, in which case I would expect that those modules would have their own working groups, and some of those modules are pretty big, so those themselves might get split up. So the web commands and JSON commands together might make sense to be its own module. So I think in that future time frame, and again, this is like at least a year out. I don't think this will happen anytime soon because it's just a lot of work. I'd imagine we will probably have more working groups, but again, like the initial focus is stuff that ships with PowerShell.
Yep, awesome. So with spending mine while I'm just wrapping this one up, just checking the Q&A in Teams here, see if there's any other questions that have been popping in. Nope, we don't have any.
I'm browsing.
Yeah, I don't see any questions that weren't already answered.
Yeah, so just to highlight some of the ones that did get asked, someone was asking Steve what version of Mac OS he's running on. It sounds like Tyler knows that Steve is on Catalina.
My background image is Catalina.
Mac OS buds. Another question here around whether PowerShell Gallery is putting in place performance best practices from NuGet.org. I think Cindy's saying yes, we are working closely with the NuGet Gallery team to align our backends, and I think there is an admission here, tacit admission that we have not always been totally in sync with NuGet.org. Some of that has been due to other commitments that we have, but it is something where we want to get much closer to the same kind of back end and infrastructure setup as NuGet.org, and we've been talking to that team very actively to push for that alignment. Has there been any testing against Hashicorp Vault backend? I think that there is, as Justin Grote wrote, someone's put one of those out for a previous release. We're not sure if it's been updated to the new format, but I think that that's something that is very easy to do and definitely will work, in the same way that the keychain extension worked, as long as someone goes and writes that module. Other than that, it looks like we've covered most everything. I do again want to shout out for those that have joined maybe a little bit later that there is an all-day PowerShell 24-hour conference going on right now, PWSH 24. You can find that at twitch.tv/DevOps.org. A bunch of members of the team will be in and out of the chat there. There's some great sessions happening. I think if we just search here real quick for PWSH 24, you'll see PowerShell.org has the schedule hosted here, PowerShell.org/24hour. Right now we are in the PowerShell community call. So coming up, it looks like Sean Iverson will be talking about PowerShell pipelines right at what is 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And then after that, you'll have to click over to this America tab here, and you'll see that there's a bunch of other awesome sessions coming up. Trevor Sullivan, Rob Soul, Justin Grote on the call right now. All folks we know very well. Militia McGregor's doing one on securing your web application pipeline from intruders. Really, it's just some great talks across the board here. And of course, Sydney Smith will be doing the secrets management. So definitely check these all out. Really awesome that we're still getting this kind of content, in the midst of the sort of challenges we have with meeting in person today. Yeah, we will be hanging out there in the chat as well. So thank you everybody for joining.
Hold on. Keith Hill just posted a question. So this is related to the native apps. So one of the focuses for 7.1 was to make PowerShell work better as a shell. And one of the areas was native commands. So I'll cover, I'm not sure exactly which item you're referring to, but there's two that comes top of my mind. One is arguments being passed in native commands. So there's been a ton of discussion. This is related to like quoting, white spacing, and whatnot. And the big concern that we had in the community was really backwards compatibility. Like any change to that parser would probably break somebody. So Jim does have, I believe he has a PR open as an experimental feature. I don't think it was merged yet. So hopefully we'll get that change into 7.2 early so people can see whether or not that is a viable solution. Separate from that, we have the thing that we talked about previously, like native command proxy generation. So we are moving towards making that repo public, hopefully this month. If not this month, it'll be next month. But basically, this is some of the, I think we had some demos before where basically it makes it easier to wrap native commands as commandlets and generate those commandlets. So you can now not worry so much about parsing text, but also get other benefits like IntelliSense, command discovery. I believe help is also integrated, so it actually integrates with the PowerShell help system. So hopefully you'll hear more about that soon.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that, what Steve's saying is we are, Jim and I are looking to get a preview out towards the end of this month, or maybe the beginning of next, but we're really trying to get it out at the end of this month. And so we'll have some blog posts and of course an RFC coming up for it as we're working on it. There's a lot of work to be done there, but right now it's starting to turn out that I think you'll find the preview to be very useful. So.
Awesome, and I think one more that really is to do with the native apps is the set-e scenario. Can you speak to that one as well, Jason?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the set-e scenario, so some of you may have been looking for set-e or set-o pipe fail. There is an RFC out there for it. As a matter of fact, I will post that link into the chat here in just a second. And that we are working towards as well. So if you want to provide us feedback on that, I'll put that link up and you can give us some feedback.
Could you maybe just give a little bit of an explanation real quick for those who might be unfamiliar with that scenario?
Oh, of course, that might be actually a little bit helpful. So the idea is this is that in PowerShell, you've grown accustomed that when a command fails, you have some options that you can control with PowerShell. You can have it silently continue, or you could have it stop and produce an error message. Well, with native commands, sometimes that doesn't always work out that way. And so one of the things that we're trying to fix is so that when native commands do produce an error, you'll get an error message. And this is also really important when you have complicated pipelines where something in the pipeline may have failed, but maybe the last thing in the pipeline was successful, and sometimes that messes with the error message that you may or may not get. And so that's what this RFC is focused on in trying to fix for PowerShell so that you get better reporting on when a native command fails.
Awesome. And I will pull that here.
Oh, thanks, Joey.
No worries. Awesome. I think that handles everything.
I'll make one more quick little plug before we finish, which is just to say that a week from today, Amber and I will be hosting a Women in PowerShell and DevOps event. Should be a pretty good time. We have some awesome guest speakers and some cool swag that we'll be able to ship out. So if you do know any female identifying or non-binary folks that might be interested in attending, You can register at aka.ms/Women in DevOps event, and we are really excited to build a little community there.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Really excited to see what happens there, and hopefully this becomes a regular thing. Thank you so much, Sydney, for bringing that up. I got the URL right?
Yeah, looks great.
Awesome. And you said 1 week from today, that's the 22nd?
Yep, 1
Awesome.
week from today, 22nd. Yep.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thanks again for joining, folks. Really excited to hang out with you all on the twitch.tv here, and have a great rest of your month. See you next month. One last thing. Apologies. We are moving the community call for next month forward by 1 week due to Thanksgiving. So next community call will be, I'll put this right up at the top. Next community call will be the second Thursday of November, which is the 12th. So second Thursday of November, and that's due to American Thanksgiving. We will all be out that following week. So yeah, look forward to seeing you folks then, and have a great rest of your day and month. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.